Welcome to Aither Insights. We're your source for, well, the best market analysis on the regulations and topics that really matter in environmental commodities.
That's right. We dive deep into what's moving these markets.
And today, we're looking at something huge. A really monumental shift in how the European Union plans to fund its future.
And not just fund it, but also accelerate its climate goals pretty dramatically.
Exactly. We're talking about the proposed new multi-annual financial framework, the MFF for 2028, right through to 2034.
It's a very bold move, isn't it? It really aims to redefine financial autonomy and climate action for the whole bloc.
Absolutely. And it's got implications, profound ones, for businesses pretty much everywhere.
It really does. So in this Aither Insight, we're going to get into the core of this framework. We'll focus on two key pillars: the long-standing EU emissions trading system, ETS, and the newer carbon border adjustment mechanism, CBAM.
Right, ETS and CBAM. And the big news here is they're not just regulations anymore.
Not just regulations. They're becoming, well, central to the EU's whole financial structure. They're being designed to actually generate direct revenue for the EU budget.
That's a fundamental change.
It is, and the scale is massive. The EU Commission just unveiled this plan, July 16th, 2025?
Yeah.
And it outlines a budget getting close to 2 trillion for the next decade.
2 trillion. That number is just staggering for a multinational budget. Really shows the ambition.
It absolutely does. And, the motivation isn't purely financial figures. It's much deeper.
Okay, so what's driving it then?
It's fundamentally about strengthening Europe. Its independence, its security, its long-term prosperity. Think of it as a strategic response.
To what specifically?
Well, pressing global challenges, there are heightened security concerns, obviously. There's that urgent need to accelerate both the green and the digital transitions.
I think they can't ignore those.
Exactly. And then there are evolving priorities like migration management, building resilience against, future shocks like pandemics or supply chain issues.
So this framework tries to address all of that.
It aims to provide the financial backbone for it. And for you listening, whether you run a business inside the EU or you import goods into the EU, or maybe you're just tracking global climate policy.
These changes are going to impact you.
Directly. Your operations, your planning, your costs. And we'll also talk about how Aither Group helps businesses like yours navigate these markets, these complex environmental commodity markets.
Okay, let's unpack this MFF then, this multi-annual financial framework. What exactly is it in practical terms? And why this huge redesign right now? What's the driver?
Okay, so at its core, the MFF 2028-2034 is, as you said, this incredibly ambitious budget framework, almost 2 trillion.
Which is about?
It works out to roughly 1.26% of the EU's gross national income on average over that 7-year period.
And the goal?
The overarching aim is clear. Equip Europe with long-term investment, not just spending, but strategic investment.
To become more independent, prosperous, secure, that kind of thing.
Exactly. A thriving society and economy over the next decade. It's really an investment in its own future resilience, its global standing.
So it's not just managing day-to-day stuff. It's about bigger strategic goals.
Yeah.
And the timing, mid-July 2025. Why now?
The timing is critical, yeah. Europe's at a real crossroads. You've got escalating security concerns, especially on the eastern side. That needs investment.
Defense? Resilience?
Right, and at the same time, massive pressure to speed up the green transition, get away from fossil fuels, and push the digital transformation to stay competitive globally.
2 huge transitions happening at once.
And then you layer on things like migration, social cohesion, building resilience against the next crisis, whatever it might be. This framework tries to be agile enough to respond to all that. It's not meant to be static.
So how is it different from previous EU budgets? What are the key changes beyond just the headline number?
There are some really notable shifts. First, a big focus on much greater flexibility.
Flexibility how?
So the EU budget can adapt faster to emergencies or, sudden shifts in political priorities. That's vital today, isn't it? Things change so quickly.
Definitely. What else?
They've also streamlined and harmonized the funding programs quite significantly.
Why do that? Just admin?
Not just admin, though, maybe that helps too. It's really designed to make it easier for people and organizations to access EU funds and to improve the overall efficiency of how that money gets used across the union.
Makes sense. Easier access, better results, hopefully.
And there's also a stronger emphasis on, impact, actual impact on the ground. Funding allocations will be guided more by partnership agreements at national and regional levels.
So more tailored to local needs.
That's the idea. To respond better to local needs, make sure the money makes a real difference where it's most needed.
Okay, but what's really caught my eye is this concept of innovative own resources. That sounds like a pretty fundamental shift in how the EU gets its money.
You've absolutely hit on one of the most significant parts of this. It's revolutionary, frankly. A major modernization of the EU's revenue system.
How so? What was wrong with the old system?
Well, historically, the EU budget relied heavily on direct contributions from member states, usually based on their GNI.
Right, the national contributions, always a source of arguments.
Exactly. Contentious negotiations, debates about fairness, and it limited the EU's ability to act independently. These new own resources are designed to provide direct, autonomous revenue to the EU budget itself.
So the EU gets its own income streams.
Precisely, which reduces the member states' traditional budget contributions. It boosts the EU's financial autonomy.
And what does that mean for the EU project overall? Is this a big step towards more integration?
It's genuinely groundbreaking in that sense. It signals a move towards a more financially independent, integrated union. Less friction over who pays what, potentially more capacity for coordinated action. It's a statement about evolving power dynamics, a stronger fiscal identity.
Okay, practically speaking, how much money are we talking about from these new sources? And what are the 5 specific sources they're proposing? It sounds like they're really diversifying.
They are. It's a comprehensive diversification. Collectively, these 5 new own resources are projected to bring in around $58.5 billion per year.
$58.5 billion a year. That's substantial.
It is. And that new revenue stream is meant to fund the MFF priorities, help repay the borrowing under Next Generation EU, remember the big pandemic recovery fund,
Of course.
and importantly, potentially ease the fiscal pressure on member states. They might not have to cough up as much directly.
Okay, so what are the 5 sources?
Right. So number 1, and key for us today, EU Emissions Trading System, ETS revenue. From auctioning carbon allowances.
Yeah.
Basically making polluters pay.
Okay.
Number 2, linked to that, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM. That charge on carbon-intensive imports.
Right.
Number 3 is an e-waste resource, a uniform rate on the weight of uncollected electronic waste. Clever, right? Incentivizes better recycling.
Interesting. Ties fiscal policy to circular economy goals.
Exactly. Number 4 is the EU Tobacco Excise Duty Own Resource, TDOR. A uniform rate on minimum tobacco duties, links fiscal policy to public health.
Okay.
And number 5, the Corporate Resource for Europe, CORE. This is planned as a lump sum contribution from large companies operating in the EU's single market.
So the big players contribute directly.
That's the idea, making sure the biggest beneficiaries of the single market help fund its broader goals.
Wow, that is a diverse mix. Environmental charges, corporate contributions, tobacco duties, reflects a real multi-pronged strategy.
It does. And understanding these is, well, crucial for grasping the financial basis of future EU policies and the whole economic landscape you're operating in.
Okay, let's zoom in then on ETS and CBAM. These are directly tied to environmental commodities, climate policy. How will the existing EU ETS, the one people call ETS1, contribute? And what's the impact on the carbon markets?
Okay, focusing on ETS1 revenue, that's the system covering power generation and heavy industry like steel, cement, the big emitters.
Yeah.
Under this proposal, 30% of the revenue generated from auctioning those ETS1 carbon allowances would go directly to the EU budget.
30%. How much money is that likely to be?
Projections are around $9.6 billion annually, starting from 2028. It's a substantial amount, directly linking climate action funding with the EU's own financial autonomy.
But wait, don't national governments get most of that money now? How does this balance out? They rely on that income, don't they?
That's a really important point, and yes, they do. It's a balance. The proposal is clear that while 30% goes to the EU budget, the majority 70% would continue to go to national budget.
So member states still get the larger share.
Absolutely. They maintain a significant share of this resource, which is vital for their own budgets and, importantly, for funding their own national climate initiatives.
Can you give us some context? How much money are we talking about overall from ETS auctions?
Sure. In 2023, the EU ETS generated about $43.6 billion in total auction revenue. Of that, around $33 billion, or 76%, went straight to member states.
And the rest?
The remainder supported existing EU-level funds, like the Innovation Fund, which got about $1.8 billion in 2023 for low-carbon tech,
Right.
and the Modernization Fund, which got about $5.7 billion in 2023 to help lower-income member states transition their energy systems.
And those funds won't lose out under this new plan.
The proposal explicitly states that these existing allocations to the Innovation and Modernization Funds will not be diminished. So this new 30% for the EU budget is essentially carved out, while protecting existing flows.
So strategically, it's doing two things: keeping the pressure on decarbonization via the carbon price, but also boosting the EU's own financial independence.
Precisely. It reinforces the polluter pays principle, continues to drive emissions cuts, and provides a direct, stable financial foundation for the EU's wider goals. It shows the ETS maturing, really, from just regulation to a core financial pillar.
You mentioned earlier that revenue from the new ETS, the one for road transport and buildings, ETS2, that's not part of this own resource calculation. Why is that? Where does that money go?
That's a deliberate choice, yeah. And it comes down to social equity, really. The ETS2 revenue is overwhelmingly earmarked for the Social Climate Fund, the SCF. It's specifically designed to finance measures that help decarbonize the ETS2 sectors, things like insulating homes, promoting cleaner transport options. But crucially, it's also there to directly support vulnerable households and small businesses who might be hit hardest by the new carbon price on heating and transport fuels.
So cushioning the blow for those who can least afford it.
Exactly. EU officials have repeatedly stressed that social fairness is, and I quote, very much still the backbone of the clean transition. So that ETS2 money is ring-fenced for social support and related investments, not general EU budget spending. It's a political necessity, really, to make the transition work.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, fit into this new financial architecture then? What's the critical problem it's trying to solve?
CBAM is positioned as another key and very innovative own resource. The mechanism, in principle, is fairly straightforward. Currently, it covers sectors seen as high risk for carbon leakage and with significant trade. EU companies under ETS face carbon costs. CBAM adds a similar charge to imported goods, ensuring fair competition. It stops EU firms being undercut by cheaper, high-carbon imports from elsewhere.
And it encourages producers outside the EU to clean up their act.
That's a key incentive. If you want to sell competitively into the EU market, you need to manage your carbon footprint. Financially, the revenue from CBAM certificates will be collected by national authorities.
How much goes to the EU budget?
The proposal is for 75% of the CBAM revenue to be transferred to the EU budget. That's expected to contribute about $1.4 billion per year from 2028. So it's financially significant, too.
It really sounds like the external dimension of the ETS, doesn't it? Extending carbon pricing beyond EU borders.
That's a perfect description. It ensures imports face an equivalent carbon price to domestic production, creates a more cohesive system.
So ETS1 revenue and CBAM revenue together, what's their combined impact? What signal does this send?
Together, they're complementary tools. They channel significant funds directly into the EU budget, boosting its autonomy. But beyond funding, they send a powerful message that the EU is deeply committed to ambitious climate action and to fair global competition. It puts a real price on carbon, whether it's emitted inside the EU or embedded in goods coming in. It pushes back against greenwashing by proxy and encourages, hopefully, a global race to the top on climate ambition.
Okay, let's get practical about CBAM. It's not fully operational yet, is it? Can you walk us through the timeline? What are businesses dealing with right now?
Correct. It's currently in its transitional phase.
And during this phase, what's required?
Primarily, importers of those covered goods, cement, steel, aluminum, fertilizers, electricity, hydrogen, need to report the embedded emissions of their imports. It's a pilot phase, really.
A learning period.
Exactly.
What else?
Then August 26, 2025 is the deadline for feedback on the public consultation about potentially extending CBAM's scope. That's important for shaping the future.
Right. And after that?
October 31st, 2025 is the deadline for the Q3 2025 report. So it's a continuous reporting cycle right now, demands constant attention to data. The definitive phase kicks off on January 1st, 2026. That's when the financial impacts bite.
What happens before then?
Before the end of 2025, the Commission plans to propose legislation on how to compensate EU producers for the phasing out of free ETS allowances using CBAM revenue, 2027-2028. By 2029, the aim is to cut the administrative burden 25% overall, 35% for SMEs. And by 2030, free ETS allowances drop to 50% against benchmarks, really tightening the screws.
That's a packed timeline. Beyond the EU, What are the wider benefits CBAM aims for globally? What's the ripple effect?
It's designed to encourage cleaner production worldwide. By making high-carbon imports more expensive in the EU market, it creates an incentive for companies everywhere to invest in cleaner tech if they want to sell here.
Exporting climate ambition, in a way.
In a market-based way, yes. Mastering this isn't just about compliance, it's about finding a competitive edge in a carbon-constrained world.
Okay, let's switch back to ETS2. We mentioned it's distinct from ETS1. Can you break down ETS2 for us? What is it, how's it different, and why is it so important for Europe's climate goals?
Right, ETS2. It's a major expansion of carbon pricing. Its main goal is to drive down emissions from sectors largely untouched by the original ETS, specifically buildings, road transport, and some smaller industries.
So broadening the scope significantly.
Hugely. It aims to spur investment in clean tech in those areas, change behavior, and help hit that big EU target, 55% GHG reduction this decade.
And the allowances for ETS2, how do they work compared to the ETS1 EUAs?
Key differences. First, they are totally new, distinct allowances. They are not interchangeable with ETS1 EUAs, separate systems, separate markets.
Got it. Can they be traded?
Yes, they'll be tradable on exchanges like ICE. Futures contracts actually started trading back in May this year, 2025.
So there's already a market forming.
Exactly, establishing a carbon cost. From 2027, they'll be freely tradable, allowing hedging and price discovery.
Any idea what ETS2 allowances might cost?
That's the big uncertainty. There are price stability mechanisms, but forecasts for 2030 are all over the place. Some say 50 euros per ton, others up to 340 euro. Huge range.
Wow, that's massive uncertainty for businesses.
It reflects potential volatility based on, energy prices, speed of electrification, policy effectiveness, economic conditions. Businesses need to brace for that.
Who exactly gets hit by ETS2? Who needs to worry about this?
It affects a wide range, maybe entities not used to direct carbon pricing. The direct obligation falls on fuel suppliers.
The companies selling gasoline, diesel, heating oil, natural gas.
Yes. They're the ones who have to buy allowances for the fuels they sell for transport and heating. But the costs will inevitably get passed down.
So impacting.
Building owners through higher heating costs, incentivizing efficiency, transport companies facing higher fuel costs, pushing fleet changes, and some smaller industrial facilities not big enough for ETS1 will now be covered by ETS2 for their fuel use. It spreads the carbon price much wider. But the key difference from ETS1 is who is regulated.
How so?
Under ETS2, the obligation to monitor, report, and surrender allowances falls on the fuel suppliers, not the end consumers driving cars or heating homes. The carbon cost is embedded earlier in the supply chain.
At the point of fuel distribution.
Right. The idea is the price signal then ripples through the economy.
Now, you mentioned ETS2 has a crucial social dimension, too, to protect vulnerable groups and a detailed timeline.
Absolutely. This isn't just economic policy, it's carefully balanced. The social dimension is key.
Tell us about that. How does it protect people from rising energy costs?
This is where the Social Climate Fund, the SCF, comes in again. A big chunk of the revenue from selling ETS2 allowances, 25% as planned, plus member state contributions, goes into this fund.
And the SCF does what?
It finances measures to help decarbonize those ETS2 sectors, renovating buildings, heat pumps, zero-emission transport. But crucially, it also provides direct support to vulnerable households and SMEs hit by the new carbon costs, things like income support or help with energy efficiency investments.
So trying to ensure a just transition.
Exactly. The official line is that social fairness is the backbone of the transition. It's designed to prevent energy poverty and make the policy politically durable. Member states get flexibility in how they use their SCF share.
That sounds vital. What about the timeline for ETS2? When do things actually start happening for businesses?
It's a phased rollout, giving time to adapt. No allowances needed yet, just data gathering and getting used to the system.
So what's next on the calendar? When do the costs start?
Key dates coming up. 2026. The Social Climate Fund becomes fully operational, funded by some early ETS2 allowance auctions. This provides support before the carbon price fully hits.
Preemptive support.
Right. Then, January 1st, 2027. The first compliance period begins. From this date, emissions from covered fuels incur a carbon cost. Businesses need allowances.
Right.
June 30th, 2027, the Commission publishes the total allowance cap for 2028, giving the market some foresight.
And the big deadline. When do companies actually have to surrender allowances?
The critical first deadline is May 31st, 2028. That's when companies must surrender allowances covering their verified emissions from the 2027 calendar year.
And they're front-loading auctions before that.
Yes, to ensure enough liquidity in the market. Then, June 1st, 2028, the first data on the total number of allowances in circulation, TNAC, is published. That allows the Market Stability Reserve, MSR, to start operating for ETS2, helping manage price volatility.
What happens if a company subject to ETS2 just doesn't comply? What are the consequences?
Non-compliance is taken very seriously. Consequences can be severe. First, financial penalties. In really bad cases, a company could even be excluded from the ETS2 market altogether. For a fuel supplier, that would effectively stop them operating.
And reputational damage.
Huge.
Yeah.
In today's world with ESG focus, non-compliance can badly tarnish a company's image, affecting investors, customers, partners. It's a major risk.
So the takeaway for listeners regarding ETS2, what stands out?
What really stands out is how structured and managed this rollout is. It's carefully phased, balancing ambitious climate goals for tricky sectors like transport and buildings with real social considerations, like the SCF. It's a comprehensive, politically savvy approach to expanding carbon pricing.
Okay, so we have ETS1, CBAM, now ETS2. Complex regulations, ambitious timelines, uncertain prices. What does this mean for businesses trying to comply, and how does Aither Group actually help navigate all this?
This complexity is exactly where Aither Group comes in. We act as a qualified counterparty and trusted advisor across all these systems, ETS1, ETS2, and CBAM.
What does that mean in practice?
Our core mission is to bridge that gap between compliance rules and your business reality. We offer simple products, but also highly structured, bespoke solutions tailored to your specific needs in these environmental commodity markets.
Keeping up with the rules must be tough.
Our team is constantly tracking legislative changes, new requirements. We ensure your compliance is not just met, but handled efficiently and strategically. We have a globally experienced team providing the help you need so you don't exhaust your own internal resources or disrupt your main business.
Let's get specific. CBAM sounds like a big administrative and financial headache. How does Aither help with CBAM specifically?
With CBAM, we help you secure CBAM pricing. We offer ways to fix prices for the certificates you'll need. That's absolutely vital for budgeting and reducing uncertainty in this new market.
Hedging, basically.
Exactly. We have over 15 years experience in carbon markets, trusted by over 6,000 clients globally as a financial hedging ally. That deep experience helps you manage risk. We also help with strategic planning, staying ahead of the market, managing certificate costs proactively.
Beyond just buying certificates.
Yes. We also support energy efficiency measures. Reducing your embedded carbon footprint directly lowers your CBAM liability and makes you more competitive. And fundamentally, we aim to ensure uninterrupted operations by keeping you informed, proactively notifying you of changes, helping you maintain that sustainable competitive advantage.
And for the EU ETS itself, both ETS1 for industry and the new ETS2 for transport and buildings, how do you support companies there?
For the EU ETS, our focus is cost-efficient compliance, fast delivery, smooth settlement of EUAs for ETS1 players, minimizing friction. For the new ETS2, we help those newly affected companies transition smoothly by staying ahead of market trends, providing real-time data, expert analysis for informed decisions. We offer specialized hedging solutions and compliance strategies specifically designed for the unique challenges and opportunities of ETS2, helping you navigate the complexity confidently. We aim to be your single point of contact for navigating these interconnected compliance markets globally.
So what happens next with these huge proposals? What's the approval process, and how crucial is collaboration?
Okay, next steps. The Commission has proposed it. Now, formal discussions start shortly in the Council, representing member states, and the European Parliament.
What's the target for agreement?
The goal is political agreement by the end of 2026. Then comes a formal adoption Parliament vote. Unanimous Council approval expected in 2027.
Does it need national approval too?
Yes, that's a crucial layer. Some aspects, especially the own resources, need ratification by all national parliaments. That adds complexity and time.
When is it all supposed to start?
The new MFF is planned to come into force on January 1st, 2028, setting the financial stage the next 7 years.
And there's a review built in.
Yes, a midterm review around 2031 to assess if adjustments are needed. It shows they're building in adaptability, but getting there requires swift, constructive dialogue between everyone, EU institutions, member states. Unified action is absolutely critical to make this vision a reality.
So we've really seen how the EU is fundamentally reshaping its finances, using environmental markets like ETS and CBAM, not just for regulation, but as core revenue streams for a more resilient, independent, and sustainable future. It's complex, it's evolving fast, and it demands, well, constant vigilance and insight from everyone involved.
Precisely. Understanding these details, the strategy behind them, and how they hit your operations, that's absolutely key, not just for compliance, but for turning these changes into a competitive advantage. At Aither Group, we're committed to providing that expertise, those real-time insights, the tailored solutions you need to navigate these pivotal and environmental commodity markets with confidence.
We definitely encourage you to stay informed, stay engaged as these critical discussions happen and this new framework takes shape. Being proactive can make a real difference.
Thank you for joining us on this Aither Insight.
Stay tuned for insights that matters.